Hey guys, Mike for Sim Racing 604 back here. Hello. And today I have some new gear from MOZA Racing. So I'm going to be unboxing, testing, and giving my review of the MOZA Racing SRP racing pedals with the optional clutch pedal add-on. This is the latest in the ecosystem of MOZA Racing, who's been targeting the budget market. I've been impressed with their product so far. So let's see how they do in the budget pedals market. Alright, so as mentioned in the intro, this is the new set of budget level racing pedals from MOZA Racing. The SRP racing pedals is a 2-pedal set with a load cell built in, retail price of $180, and then this clutch add-on is $40. So if you buy them as a set of 3, it comes out to $219 roughly. So in design, as you can see here, very similar to the CSP pedals from Fanatec. It's obviously the market they're targeting. Their R9 wheelbase, which I love, looks eerily similar to the CSL DD. And then we have these pedals, which are very similar in design. So should be fairly simple to assemble. I'm going to put this pedal obviously onto this set of 2. It looks like it's a similar thing to Fanatec in that you can slide the pedals left and right to your liking, and then so I'll be able to add the clutch pedal, and then I'll have a 3-pedal set. So that's what I'm going to get installed. So I'm going to go ahead and get these unboxed, build it, and then I'll come back and give my first impressions of the MOZA Racing SRP pedals. Alright guys, so let's talk SRP pedals now that I've got them built. And already I have some pretty strong opinions about these pedals, some good, some bad. So let's talk about it. First of all, initial impressions. I mean, really high quality build, heavy gauge metal. Travel on all of the pedals seems nice. I'll get into the brake pedal a bit more in a second. But overall, from a design perspective, and I mean, it's very similar, as I said, to the CSL pedals. So no surprise, it's a formula that works, but very well built. Doesn't seem to be any perceivable manufacturer defects, so it looks like MOZA has done a great job. Second thing in the positive is you can actually customize. Sorry, I pulled it off camera for a second, but you can actually customize the brake feel. So it comes with additional springs and an additional spacer here, which you can change out. It's very easy. You just kind of apply some pressure upward on the bottom of the brake pedal, and then this whole arm assembly comes up, and you can switch out the springs and spacer. It's great. I just went through a big thing with 3D wrap, trying to customize the feel of my CSL pedals, and they feel much better. I can get them to my liking, so it's awesome that MOZA packed that from the factory. One issue with it, though, the instructions that come with it is this: one-sided, 3 steps on how to do it, but they don't tell you what each of the springs means. We have a red, we have an orange, and we have a yellow, and then the spacer that I installed was the one in the bag, and it said medium. So what's the default? What is the one that comes from the factory on there? Is that hard or is that soft? So definitely more explanation. I looked on the website, it didn't just jump out at me. So cool that we can do customization, but we need to know what those things are. So a little bit of instruction would go a long way. All right, now, unfortunately, I have to talk about some things that I don't like. So we'll start off firstly with, the instructions that I just went through. I told you the instructions weren't very clear, and similarly, the instructions aren't very clear on the wiring. So you might be able to see it here. I'll try and put some pics on the screen, but basically, the brake pedal has actually 2 outgoing connections, and they're not tagged with colors, they're not tagged with labels to say which one is the one that measures travel and which one is the one that measures load cell braking, or load cell pressure rather. So you just kind of have to guess. Now, it's somewhat intuitive. One wire comes from the potentiometer, one wire comes from the load cell, but for those not familiar with load cell brakes, you might not immediately see it. It would have been so easy for them to just color code it, so I don't know why they didn't. And that kind of brings me to another point, which is these pedals have a nice foam cap on the end to sort of hide away the underside, I'm guessing. And when you screw it down onto your wheelbase, it tucks all that away. I might be wrong about that. Maybe it's just a shipping thing, so the plate doesn't get damaged. I don't know. But it's kind of awkward in that when I have the clutch, in this case, mounted to the outside holes, it presses up against that foam pad. Big deal? Not really. But it's just something I noticed. But it does become a big deal on the other side. So as you can see, that foam pad is directly in front of where my USB connection is, and also my RJ connection to the potentiometer of the accelerator. So it's really awkward. There's no space. You might be thinking, well, Mike, you caused your own problem there because you mounted the accelerator pedal all the way to the outside, pressed up against the foam. But there's a boot on this USB cable that would have caused me the same issue, even if it was one space over. So it's just really awkward. Maybe I'm totally misreading what these foam pads are for, but it just seems like it's directly in the path. Maybe these are meant to be ripped off as soon as you get them out of the box. I don't know. But anyway, it just seems kind of awkward. So there's a lot of... Oh, and one more thing. So one of my biggest beefs with the CSL pedals is that the screws, when you're putting this onto a wheel plate, have to come from the underside. And it would have been nice to just drop a bolt through, put a nut on the bottom. MOZA thought of that. So they pre-drilled larger countersunk holes to put your mounting bolts through. C'est bon. But the problem is that they did not include nuts. There's no nuts. They included the bolts to do exactly that, but they didn't include the nuts to go on the bottom. Why? Nuts cost pennies. Why did they not include them? So kind of frustrating. Right idea, just unfortunate execution there. It would have been so easy to put a couple of nuts in there, but they didn't do it. So I got to source my own nuts. Not the end of the world. Again, it costs me 5 cents. If I have to go to a hardware store, I probably got some around the garage. But it would have been pennies for them to include it and not much more in shipping. So, I mean, just please include all the necessary hardware. But we'll finish on a positive note. And that is that the tools were included. So there are 3 Allen keys included. I won't get them all out, but there's also a little wrench here. And I love that. I love when manufacturers throw in a couple of cheap tools. I happen to have a garage stocked with tools. It's no problem for me to source my own Allen keys or my own wrench or whatever. But I know a lot of people don't have access to tools. So it's great that they throw in even just a cheap set of Allen keys to get that mounted. So that's my positive. I like when manufacturers include tools, and MOZA has done it for these SRP pedals. But overall, guys, good first impression. A lot of really head-scratching moments when it comes to design in my mind. But does any of it, make this a bad set of pedals? I don't believe so. We'll get it mounted next, and we'll do some testing. The only one that I could see is really an issue is the USB. I hate the fact that I have to use a USB port. Other than that, again, the build quality is good, and overall design simple, follows a pattern that Fanatec came out with whenever 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever it was. And that pattern works. I love my CSL pedals, so I'm sure I will love these SRP pedals as well from MOZA. So I'm excited to get back to my MOZA wheelbase. I've been running Fanatec for a while now. Going back to MOZA, I get to use that GS wheel, which I think is incredible. So let's do exactly that now. We'll do some testing, and then I'll wrap up with final thoughts. And just before I put these pedals into action, let me quickly run through some facts about the MOZA Racing SRP pedals. These SRP pedals are MOZA's newest budget-friendly sim racing pedal option and work with PC only via a USB connection. The pedals are sold either as a 2-pedal set or a 3-pedal set, and you can add the 3rd pedal to the 2-pedal set later if you wish. The 2-pedal set sells for $180 and the 3-pedal set for $219, and the 3rd pedal sold separately will cost you $40. Please keep in mind that these prices are in US dollars, and prices, taxes, and shipping costs will vary by region. The brake pedal in either the 2 or 3 pedal editions of the SRP pedals uses both a 75 kilogram load cell and a potentiometer to measure your braking. All 3 pedals use a 16-bit magnetic encoder, which gives you 65,536 steps of resolution, which MOZA says results in a much higher resolution and more stable performance than a Hall sensor. And the design of the SRP pedals uses heavy gauge steel throughout, including the pedal faces. These These faces can be removed and adjusted based on pre-drilled holes in the pedal arms. There are rubber pads at the bottom of the pedals, which allow the pedals to be used directly on a floor if desired, but please keep in mind in this case that the pedals should be placed against a wall or other immovable object because the load cell braking does require a lot of force. The pedals can be customized using the free Pithouse software, including adjusting the strength and creating a non-linear curve to regulate how the brake reacts in-game based on the travel. And lastly, the pedals ship with optional springs and a spacer to allow users to customize the feel of the brake. Okay, so let's discuss my impressions of driving with the MOZA Racing SRP pedals, and first off we should talk about the installation, and unsurprisingly the pedal bases share form with the Fanatec CSL pedals down to the mounting hole spacing, so they went on without any customization of my rig needed, and I sourced my own nuts for the included bolts, and 5 minutes later I was ready to go. The Pithouse software is something that impressed me with the R9 wheelbase and GS and CS wheels, and it impressed me here once again. The software recognized the new pedals, and I was able to push a firmware update with one click. I got the pedals mapped in Assetto Corsa ACC and Automobilista 2 without issue, and generally speaking, I'm pleased to say that in each of those sims they feel really good. There's more travel to the brake than you might expect, but I like it. It felt really nice for me, as did the accelerator and clutch. And the clutch is pretty stock. There's nothing that makes it special, but it does do its job, and the accelerator is very simple by design. As far as I can tell, it's the same as the clutch pedal, but with a larger pedal face. There's a decent amount of resistance and smooth travel, so it's what you'd expect at this price point. Honestly, nothing more, but nothing less either. The dual sensing brake, which measures both pressure and travel distance, didn't come across as more accurate than any of my other brake pedals that use a single measurement technology, but they also didn't seem hindered by the parallel methods either. I had a great time driving with the brake, and it falls into my unofficial rankings right where I thought it should be. It's heaps better than my T300 or G29 brake, roughly on par with my TLCM or CSL LC pedals, but not as nice as my Heusinkveld Sprint or V3 inverted pedals. To summarize, the SRP pedals installed easily and feel very nice, especially in consideration to the price point. Alright guys, so final thoughts on the MOZA Racing SRP pedals, and I'm pleased to say that this is a very good set of pedals in the budget load cell space for sim racing. They would be outstanding. They would be almost unbelievable at the $180 price point for the two pedal set if there weren't such a thing as the Thrustmaster TLCM pedals or the Fanatec CSL LC pedals. But those exist, so this puts this in the sort of predictable range. It's about what you would expect, but I'm happy to say that for the price and fitting into that sort of subgenre of sim racing hardware, these perform very well. And I think they're a perfect case for a V2, another set of pedals that basically keep everything intact but make some small improvements. So I'd like to see a second version of this come out, or even an updated set of the SRP pedals that now ship with a little bit more. And what I'm talking about specifically is the foam pads on the outside, which block the USB cable. Be nice if we could get some, cutouts of that so you can actually get the cable in there, or some instruction on what is meant to happen with those foam pads. Also, the RJ cables underneath, it'd be nice if there's labeling or color coding to make things easier for connecting these underneath. And then the optional springs, I think it's great that they come with optional springs so you can adjust the resistance. That's fantastic, way to go. But at the same time, the instructions should say exactly how to customize that, what the springs mean, what the colors of the springs and the resistor mean in order to get the feel of the pedal you're looking for. Probably the most obvious drawback is the lack of connection to your wheelbase. The R9 wheelbase that I have unfortunately doesn't allow you to plug these directly in. This is USB only to a PC, and that's doubly bad because I have to take up a USB port, which admittedly I'm oversensitive about, but I just don't like wasting USB ports. But at the same time, no connection to the wheelbase also precludes this ever being used on a console. So unfortunately, unless there's a major design overhaul, this will be PC only forever. But if you're looking for a budget set of load cell pedals, especially if you're in the MOZA Racing ecosystem already and want something sub $200 that gets you a really nice set of pedals with a good load cell kit, nothing fancy, but it more than does the job. It's well built. There's good supporting software, a little bit of customization options in terms of how you place the pedal faces, a little bit of options in terms of the pedal spacing as well. And then, of course, as mentioned, the custom resistance using the spring and spacer. I think this is a really good option. I like these pedals. Again, I think it'll be tough to sort of find a market space, a specific customer when there is the TLCM pedals and with the Fanatec CSL pedals. But if you're in the PC only sim racing world and looking for a budget set of load cell pedals, I think this deserves some serious consideration. I think they're a really good set of pedals and I like them. So thank you to MOZA Racing for providing these for review, and thank you for watching.